There we go.
Alright, so the argument I'm arguing to today is the genetic modification of crops is beneficial to humans. The argument stated that genetically modified foods decrease the environmental toll of agriculture, they increase the access to foods due to increased efficiency in production, and they had advantageous consumption values. So the first claim I'm going to be responding to is that they're claimed to have an increased use of, or they're claimed to have a decrease in environmental toll of agriculture. But genetically modified foods are actually increasing the demand of pesticide use, which is slowly killing our environment. And since genetically modified foods are more resistant and tolerable of the herbicides which lead to superweeds, the superweeds are slowly taking over farms, which lead to lower crop yields for farmers around the world. From 1996 to 2005, it was stated in an argument that 40% of pesticide was, or less than, pesticide use went down by 40%. But a large cause of that is that a study from Washington State University states that genetically modified crops and superweeds are actually leading to an increase in pesticide use. Since the superweeds are getting more and more tolerable of the pesticides, in the more recent years, there's actually an increase in pesticide, contrary to when it first came out. And the second claim from the argument was that they generate the same, or they generated more food compared to the organic counterpart. But genetically modified foods generate the same amount of yield as non-genetically modified foods. A study by Jack Hyndman, a professor of genetics at the University of Canterbury, proved that genetically modified foods don't actually generate more food than organic foods. Since corn and soy account for 80% of the genetically modified foods, in 1996 and 2013, the US and Western Europe, who doesn't use genetically modified foods, they had the same amount of yields for those two crops. And a part of this could be accounted for because when you do genetically modified foods, if certain genes put together don't cooperate with each other, it can actually lead to crop failures. And the third claim from the argument was that there was advantageous consumption value in the nutritions for genetically modified food. But genetically modified foods actually have more pesticides, which lead to overall health disadvantages over time. Because of the superweeds that lead to more pesticide use, it slowly increases the consumption of pesticide. So all in all, genetically modified food isn't as good as it seems to be.
David, you want to give me back the outline now? It's okay. Thank you. All right, well, structurally, it's easy to follow. You did a good preview of what the advocates' claims were, and then you follow that structure pretty clearly, so I appreciate that. The argument that says GMOs are actually increasing the amount of pesticide use, the data that you supported talking about a decline in pesticide use, it's interesting, we just heard those numbers in the previous speech, so I thought that that was kind of an interesting coincidence there, and they're very similar. But you've got a follow-up study that suggests that it's actually resulted in increased use primarily because of the superweeds. So we've got a piece of testimony on that. I don't have any statistical information being presented on this point, and I think that that's a little bit problematic because that should be something that's easily measurable, and all we have is kind of this inferential conclusion. So it's a good point, but I do think that you probably need a little bit more data on it because the the other side does claim some a pretty dramatic statistical decline, and you don't, all you've got is, oh, it's actually increased the use. I'm going, okay, well, How do we measure that? How much is it increased? Where can we see this? What study reached that particular conclusion? I don't have any of that information, and I think that's a little bit problematic. Yeah, I think you've got a better comparison of data on the second point where you say you're talking about the yields, and basically there's an argument that says the crops that are produced in Europe versus those in the United States, that the yields are the same. It sounds like you're paraphrasing the research there, which is a little bit of an issue. It would be helpful, once again, if we got some number, how much is produced per acre, for instance, probably would be the easiest way to make a comparison on the yields, given that we have different sized farms and ranches and all that kind of thing. So if there is, it seems like that study that you cited would probably have that kind of information in it, and that I think would have been a good thing to add to the point. And then the claim that says that you've got another claim that comes right after that. I forget exactly what it is. I'd have to look at your outline because I wrote a note to myself and then I don't see it. Oh, could lead to crop failure. And, I don't really have any evidence on this particular point. It's just an assertion on your point, and I think you need some data on that. And then the third point basically is just a repeat of the superweed argument, and I don't, like I said earlier, we don't have any data on the superweeds. I think that's a little bit problematic, so it sounds a little redundant there. Thank you.